Hey guys, welcome to the daily recap London session. So today price action is a little bit more complex than it used to be. Sometimes we have the clean price action that everything is bearish, it's just following the order flow, following structure. Here we have a little bit more complex scenario, but I think it can be very easy to understand as well. And actually, I really like this type of price action because it's a little bit more challenge in my opinion, and yeah, when we combine everything together it becomes very clear. So just starting out here on the 4 hour, we already know the daily, right? I don't need to repeat myself. We already reached premium prices. We have a drop to the downside. For me, this is a weak low. All demands are just reaction points, so I'm not expecting price to follow through from these demands. Simply just expecting a small pullback, whatever the pullback will be, produce the sell side liquidity needed to then actually price go to the downside, right? So on the 4 hour, just want to explain here the 4 hour structure, because I have a message on Discord from a person that was quite confusing because someone was telling that 4 hour is bullish. So according to the photon strategy and how we map and how I map structure, for me 4 hour still bearish. For me this is a swing high, for me this is a swing low. I personally don't use pip rules. If you use it, it can be a little bit different, but I believe we are still bearish even with pip rules. But with swing structure, for me this is a swing high, this is a swing low. This is all internal complex structure, complex pullback, and after that internal boss we have indication that now the low will get run. So for me we have a swing high, we have a swing low, but if I'm focusing on internal structure, it can be a little bit more confusing, I know. I'm still consider this as the swing, as the internal 4 hour, the 4 hour leg, right? Internal leg, and this is a high for me and this is the low. So what can be a little bit confusion for people here? We are still contained inside this most recent supply range, most significant and recent supply range, right? So even though we have a 4 hour chalk, for me this 4 hour chalk or M15 boss that was up here, it doesn't mean straight away that this leg will start the pullback. Even though we have a 4 hour chalk, doesn't mean this 4 hour leg will start a pullback, because we still contain inside this bearish 4 hour order flow, right? Price is respecting this, right? So even though we have a 4 hour chalk, for me this 4 hour chalk and 15 balls are just indications to us that price is pulling back, and for me the pullback will likely be to mitigate something here on the extreme and then continue to the downside, because I don't assume order flow will change until it does, the same as structure, right? However, if we have if we have a break from this supply range that is holding price, then yes, the complex pullback from this 4 hour internal leg has officially start, right? So we mark here the supplies on this big leg. We use premium versus discount, use all our confluence here. We see which ones swap liquidity, the flips, all that stuff. So, but for now, until this this bearish 4 hour supply range holds, I'm not expecting the true pullback to actually start, right? So for me, I'm still expecting, and like I said, I don't assume order flow will change until it does, so I'm still expecting this 4 hour lower high from here. Let's go to the M15. So M15 time frame, we both bullish, right? If you don't count this as swing structure, because it was just 12 pips, we probably have the high here. So this is is just chalks, right? So a little bit messy price action down here. After the break of structure, we understand that price to reach here the premium prices, M15 need to boss bullish, right? So I'm not assuming, like I said, that the major 4-hour leg will now pull back just because we boss bullish on the M15. For me, still contain inside the 4-hour, like I said, the 4-hour bearish supply. So I'm still looking for sales at this stage. For me, this is the high probability zone to look for sales. Let me just see something here, because it can be a sorry guys, just okay. Okay, M15. Okay, so what I was expecting was to look for M1 entries right in this M15 POY. What is the override? The override is if you don't reach M15 POY, I won't be looking for M1 entries inside this 4-hour zone. It's too large to look for M1s. You can have, for example, a clean M1 here. You take a sell, price keeps going, another one, you take a sell, price keeps going up. So you can take multiple losses. I just focus on M15 to look to M1. So my override was the M15 choke. So after this M15 choke, I know M15 was bullish. So according to M15, this M15 choke can be just a pullback, right? To then continue to the upside. However, because we already understand the 4-hour picture, the 4-hour data frame analysis, the fact that 4-hour reach extreme, 4-hour reach an extreme of supply range that's still holding, and all these move to the upside could be just used to facilitate the pullback and mitigation into this extreme. So after this M15 change of character, I was very comfortable looking for sells, because this can be the first sign that this change of character here can be the first sign that actually we will keep continue down and will follow the 4-hour order flow, right? So let's go to the M1. Also, just want to, because of the current price action, and this can help you going now to New York. Even though we have M15 boss bullish, right, and we have here, imagine, is this the move up? No, you have the clear chalk down here, and here you can argue that we have a chalk bullish back again. Look where the bullish M15 chalk happened. It happened at super premium, and what I always say is chalks are only valuable when we are in the right area, right? When we are not in the right area, this is not very significant for me. Even though price chalk bullish here, I personally not confident in taking buys here, even though technically we have a change of character bullish, and this can be the first sign price will pull back. But because we are straight into extreme 4-hour supply, and the M15 boss, M15 chalk bullish at premium prices, I personally prefer to not take any long from here, because I understand that shorts are only important in good areas of value. And actually, for me, this can still be a nice sell setup. I was monitoring M1, but yeah, nothing clean yet. So, okay. Let's go to the M1 time frame here during the London session. It can be a little bit of confusion. So M1 time frame. After the M15 change of character that was down here, I'll just annotate like this. At this stage, right, when price is pulling back, we have two zones I personally was considering. This one, right, and we have this M1. I'll just draw here. This one, right? But for me, I was more interested in this one, because even though this was still unmitigated, if you look at a range perspective, you have this push down, we have the push up, right, and you have the push down, and price here already mitigated the entire range. So even though I'm still happy to take a sell from here, because the range is still unmitigated or not fully mitigated unless the AQ is met, but I was also aware that price already tapped here and move to the downside. So I was more interested in this POI. So when price reach here and start pushing to the downside and chalk bearish here, I was a little bit concerned because maybe price can go earlier, even though it didn't reach here, because the entire range is from here to here. So I just jumped to the M3 time frame, and it makes much more sense. I use time frames to help me. So for me, this was a clean flip, right, on M3. So I can justify price going earlier. So even though we never reached this area, and I can justify price going earlier because it reached M3 POI. After the price move up, move down, move up and move down, I have here a flip, right? So when price reach this zone, and when we have very small tiny zones, something that I also advise you is to just select the entire range. You can test this by yourself, something that Matt does a lot as well, David as well. So when, for example, when I have these small candles here, I personally don't use this one. I use the basically the two candles instead of just one. So this was the first entry. I personally use second time frames, but for me it's visible on M1. So yeah, and after that, price broke the downside. So I jumped to M15, and this can be a good trade recap as well. So I jumped to M15, and what I have here, for me, is nothing very clean, to be honest. But if you use a little bit of bar replay, let me just show you. It can be a little bit confusing for new people. So price move down, move up, right, and move down again. So for me, this is a little bit more difficult to see, but for me, my idea is that this is an M15 flip zone, right? Let me just put here M15. So when I go back to M1, right? Let me just clean this. For me, this entire zone is a flip zone. So I start being interested at this point. Also, if I use M1 time frame, you can use, for example, this range to justify that actually this is also a sweep zone, a flip formed through sweep of liquidity, which I really like when taking continuations. So you can see that price push down, push up, push down, swept liquidity, and move to the downside. Now that this entry model for me was very clean, and I start getting interested. The real question is, which POI will I choose? Again, that's not very easy, to be honest, because extreme is unmitigated. Is mitigated. I personally prefer always extreme unless it's already mitigated. So I understand that extreme can be mitigated even though we didn't reach EQ. Again, you can justify this POI. For me, that's the most clean one. Even the only negative aspect is the fact that price push down here, mitigate, push down, and for me this is slightly mitigated. So again, something I'm not sure if you want to do or not, but I just can show you what I did. So I use a lot type of things that going through time frames to help me. And on M2 for me is super clean, right? You have this clean buy to sell that get engulfed. So yeah, it gave me more confidence to look for a trade here. There was a very clean trade here on the seconds that I took. So I will just put here 2 pip stop loss. I don't want you guys to confuse with seconds, but for me it's visible on M1 as well. The reason I didn't took the extreme was because it's already mitigated, and the next candle for me, even though it's not very clean on M1, you can see, sorry, on M2 that very clean buy to sell. So yeah, that was the second trade I took. Okay, so at this stage you can see that price is moving to the downside, right? And suddenly we are like something like this, right? So after the break of this low, I was expecting this one to go, but price then popped to the upside. When it popped to the upside, it broke this supply range that was holding price. So after breaking this, For me, this high becomes weak because it never took out the low. It failed to do its job, and price popped to the upside, demand internally to control again. So I was not interested in taking any trades from here, and price continued to the downside, and yeah, there wasn't anything more that I was interested. So that was the reason I took these trades. For me, this one definitely a majority of you will not take it because it's not according to our plan, but it is what it is. And this one for me was very clean. I was expecting price to reach here, but my override was after seeing this change of character, this flip. I just jumped to time frames, and I identified that actually price was already rejecting the M3. That was very, very clean. So I was happy to take the sell here. And yeah, let me see price action now. That was the daily recap, and let me just do a quick forecast. I still looking for sells, so I will be looking for sells from this area or currently where price is rejecting. This POI, you can argue that it's not very clean on M15, but like I said, when price action is not very clean, then jump one time frame and look, 16-minute time frame is extremely clean. So for me, I'm still being, especially after the break of this, right? I'm still expecting demand completely fail, even if it's a weak break for me to fail. So I'm still expecting something like this, mitigate something here, and this can be used as inducement to continue to the downside. If it provides, of course, a clean M1 entry. If not, I will still keep an eye on the extreme, right? And to look for longs, I won't be looking for longs from this area, even though it can play out. I will prefer to look for longs down here, or actually wait for our supply range to actually get broken, because that will give me the confirmation that the pullback from this leg will actually start, and then we have more room to the upside, right, before going to the downside. And yeah, I will stop here before taking this, before this becomes too big and you guys can't watch. So yeah, thank you very much and see you soon. If you have any more questions, feel free to send me a message on Discord.